If you are already somewhat familiar with Theravada Buddhism, you will know that at each stage of sainthood or enlightenment, seeing Dhamma, there are certain mental ties or mental chains that are removed. At the first stage, there are 3 removed. One is doubt. One is the view of self in body and mind, or the identification with body and mind as oneself. And the third one is called in Pali Sila-bata Paramaso. And if you are familiar with Pali already and are shocked at my terrible pronunciation, please excuse me, I'm not a Pali scholar. So what does Sila-bata Paramaso mean? It means essentially attachment to rules and rituals. There are different ways of translating it, but attachment to rules and rituals, more or less. We have been discussing in recent days the kilesa of doubt in some detail, and also the kilesa of self, as well as the kilesa of attachment to rules and rituals. We should not look at any of the 3 things that are removed at Sotapanna level, this self, or we could say ego, doubt in the Buddha's teaching, in the truth of it, and the attachment to rules and rituals. We shouldn't look at them all in isolation. We have to see them as 3 parts of a whole, or how they are interrelated. And to help with this, I already talked about it in the first part of the teaching on doubt. I can put a link in the description too. That awakening to Dhamma, seeing Dhamma for oneself, it also means awakening to what is called right view. And having right view, it basically just means to see the truth, to see the reality of things as they actually are. And in particular, seeing right as right, wrong as wrong, and seeing without selfishness, without self. When we identify to the body and mind as I, myself, we are automatically without right view. Whenever something touches my ego, myself, I can't see what's right as right, and I can't see what's wrong as simply wrong. For example, whenever anybody is angry with me, I don't like that anger. I find it unacceptable and wrong. But whenever I'm angry with somebody else, I like that anger and I find it justified. So this view from a self-centered position, it prevents us from seeing things as they are, just the fact that anger is wrong. And it prevents us from seeing what is genuinely right and good as well. For example, if somebody is reprimanding us for something we've done wrong, if we are self-centered and attached to our image in that person's eyes, for example, it's hard to appreciate and be grateful for them to tell us what we have done wrong, because we'll just be busy being hurt by the criticism, and we can't see at that moment that it's justified and that they are right to tell it. So even if, in theory, we might be seeing the difference between right and wrong fairly clearly, as soon as our self comes into the picture, as soon as we are seeing from a self-centered position, we can't see clearly anymore. It all becomes confused. Now, when we are not seeing right as right and wrong as wrong, we are seeing right and wrong incorrectly, crookedly. So because we're not able to see them just as they are, and we're continually tainted by our selfishness in some way or another, we are not able to do actions that are purely good, because always our self is there behind it, bringing an element of selfishness. And because of that, we are not able to depend on our own actions for our protection, for our goodness, for our security in a way. Without talking about karma or anything like that, we can all more or less see that if we do actions with goodness, with integrity, with honesty, and based on good calculations and good qualities, it will bring us a good future. But if we're not able to see clearly the difference between good and bad in the moment when we're acting, we can't rely on our own actions to protect us. And so because of this sense of insecurity then that we have, because we know we do wrong, we know we are impure, we know there's a lot wrong with us, there is born from this the attachment to moral codes, rules, and or rites and rituals. Not knowing the true source of right and wrong, not seeing it, and there being a lot wrong with us, we make rules for ourselves, man-made laws, rituals, systems of morality, to protect ourselves, to hang on to, to make ourselves feel secure. So a rite and ritual, or an attachment to a moral code, is defined as whatever we do in dependence on a system of rules or a rite and ritual that we practice and follow that provides us with a sense of safety, of protection from our own sense of failure and the evil that exists inside us. We kind of try to put barriers around the wrong that exists inside of us by doing some kind of repetitive physical action or having a material object that serves as our protection, depending on something outside of us that will remove our wrong actions, remove our bad karma, or remove our sin, or however we might describe it. So anyone who strictly religiously follows any kind of behavioral code which involves many physical actions in their daily lives being attached to these rules just because they're the rules, can be said to be involved in this kind of rite and ritual. And it's interesting to note that in Western society, although we have very little remaining of religiously driven moral codes, they're becoming weaker and weaker, we still end up creating our own moral codes, our own rite and rituals, either just at a personal level or done at a societal level. So, for example, sometimes these might be taken to extremes and seen as mental illnesses, such as in the case of a person whose rite and ritual involves washing his hands at a particular frequency at certain times. Or sometimes it might be focused on diet. Rules is no white sugar, no oil, no gluten. Or again, taken to extremes like one's rite and ritual to do 15 push-ups after every meal. Or it can be environmental, for example. Rite and ritual is all about recycling and zero waste. Because zero waste is moral, plastic is immoral. So again, we can go on. It includes also superstition, belief in good and bad luck. People will engage in rites and rituals asking for something they desire or to keep bad luck at bay. Don't walk under a ladder, believing that black cats are unlucky, and so on. It is not about not following any law. Some laws are good, some rules are very useful, and some practices that we might repeat every day are also useful. But our doing of them has to be based on a clear understanding of why we do them, for what purpose. Is it useful or is it useless? Is it right or is it wrong? There has to be a good reason that is not just because it's the rule, that is not just because it's the tradition. As soon as we depend on, hang on to, and find a sense of security in any practice that is not looking into our own mind and finding where there is the wrongdoing in it, watching how it works and removing whatever is wrong inside the mind, then we are caught up in the attachment to rules and rituals, and that's a problem that we need to solve. To come back to what I said in the beginning, the best way to understand the attachment to rites and rituals is to see where it is born, what are the conditions for it to grow. That is the fact that we identify body and mind as I, myself. Therefore, in everything that we do, everything that we think, and all interactions that we have this self-centered point of view. Because we have this self-centered point of view, we are not able to see right as right and wrong as wrong, simply enough. Not seeing right and wrong as they are, and being tainted by this selfishness, we are not able to depend on the power and efficacy of our own good actions. We are not able to even do purely good actions. Because of this, and because we don't see the source of our own problem, we create man-made laws and systems of morality that we can keep to, things that we can hang on to outside to protect us from our own wrongdoing and the effects of our own wrong actions. So as long as we hang on to those habits and wrong views of what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, we will never be able to see things as they really are.